Hello there, this is Stephen here from Shortcuts. This is video 1 for the price list that will go out this Wednesday, May 21st at 9 p.m. Sydney time. If you enjoy these videos but are not on the price list and would like to me, just drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Before we start, some of you may have already started seeing the ads. I am happy to confirm that the second Northern Beaches Record Fair of 2025 will take place on Sunday, June 29th at 11 o'clock at the Hotel Staying at Manly. A whole bunch of new sellers, but the same great vinyl. And for those of you who come in the first hour, a bunch of free vinyl as well. There were 5 records given away last time. We'll see how many this time. I'll include the link to the event in the emails that go out this week. And for those of you who've already emailed me about it, thank you so much. There is 1, maybe 2 tables left. So if any of you are in the Sydney area and would like a table at the fair to sell some records, drop me a note. All right, this is going to be the soul funk soundtrack, heavy metal and jazz list with a bunch of really, I think, really quite interesting records. And it was very, very difficult for me to choose a kickoff record between these two. That's thrust Herbie Hancock and Pastel Blues, Nina Simone. So we'll have joint kickoff records this week. So I don't know how many of you who are watching this went to see Herbie Hancock at his recent concert tour of Australia. So I went, and it was a pretty amazing night. I mean, as is usual, surrounded by crazy talented musicians and some crowd-pleasing antics, including playing the large white kind of guitar. But also there was a lot of deep, heavy, funky jazz. And the t-shirt that I bought that night featured a kind of view of Herbie. And it was a t-shirt that was based on this album cover. So this is Thrust, and we'll talk about Pastel Blues in a second. There's the band. Thrust, 1974, the year of my birth. I think undoubtedly one of the greatest albums of 1974, and has to be in the top 2 or 3, if not number 1, in the canon of the great Herbie Hancock. My personal list would feature Thrust, Headhunters, and probably Fat Rotunda, or maybe Maiden Voyage. But it'd be different. I mean, he's unbelievable artist, a legendary figure, classically trained pianist, originally from Chicago, and came to prominence in the classic Miles Davis quintet from the 60s. And I don't know, I suppose, many of you will have grabbed some of the records, Miles Davis records that feature Herbie Hancock, and they're pretty extraordinary. The like of James Johnson, and there's so many, like, just a legend, truly legendary performer. But this transition from acoustic jazz piano to electric piano via the likes of Feely to Kilimanjaro that featured on the list a few weeks ago, where Herbie Hancock played electric piano with Miles Davis. This led to Headhunters in 1973. A lot of lists still claim that to be the biggest selling jazz album of all time. Thrust followed on the heels of Headhunters, and there were a couple of changes. So the band were a little bit different. So Bill Summer, percussion, Paul Jackson, electric bass, Bernie Maupin, soprano and tenor sax, clarinet, Mike Clark on drums. So that change of Mike Clark on drums, I think, is part of what makes this record, I think, particularly special. The musicianship and the incredible syncopation between Herbie Hancock and his kind of thrusting playing, no pun intended, and the absolute grooves that Mike Clark holds down. There is no doubt, and there will be, when you listen to this record, you will understand why DJs have sampled the breakbeats and grooves of this record for 50 years. From Nas to Diggable Planets, one of my favorites, it's been an immense influence. And I don't know, it'll be interesting if you're not aware of this record, just whether you think it is better than Headhunters or not. I kind of suspect it is. As was kind of typical of Herbie records from the time, there are 4 pretty long grooves on here. A lot of them featuring Herbie on his Rhodes electric piano. You get Palm Grease, which is, I think, maybe a more mid-tempo funk song, very deep groove. I really like the layered percussion in particular. I suppose, Herbie actually played Actual Proof from this record at the gig. And the thing about Actual Proof is that it was, I guess, I remember reading this, and I really, really hope this is true, but it was a demo that he kind of hit upon to prove the capabilities of the Odyssey synthesizer that he also uses on this record, hence the name Actual Proof that this thing could make amazing music, and they decided to keep it. I think I kind of like that idea. There's Butterfly, which is more of a ballad, in inverted commas. It's still a pretty groovy affair, but has a little bit more ambient textures, I would say. And then Spankalee, which is a really kind of party vibe track. I think that it is more consistent than Headhunters, but Headhunters with Watermelon Man, etc., which kind of drew the attention. But Thrust, Herbie Hancock, if you don't have that record, man, are you in for a treat? It is wonderful. Right, so I mentioned Nina Simone, Pastel Blues, 1965. A lot of people think that this is the best record of Nina Simone's incredible career. I'm going to have to double check, but I'm pretty sure this is the first press because it doesn't have an insert and has the Japanese descriptions on the back sleeve. It is in really nice condition. Really, really nice. Nina Simone, born Eunice Kathleen Waymon from North Carolina. We spoke about her just last week with one of her records making the list. And this one is a little bit different to the record from the last list, which was in many respects her pop record, I Put a Spell on You. This record is fierce. And it's probably because of 2 key songs. Strange Fruit, one of the key black rights songs / protest songs of all time, and it's not even close. But it's not the best track on here, which is extraordinary, because that is Sinner Man, the closer, the 10-minute magnum opus, the greatest song of her career. The band are just in a commanding form. She marshals the whole thing. It is truly amazing. And I think what stands out in this record is how cohesive it sounds. It is not unusual, and I love Nina Simone, but it is not unusual on most of our records for there to be a song or two where you go, what the hell is that? You know, especially some of her live records. But this one with Al Shackman on guitar, it shows restraint, it's really sensitive, it received rave reviews at the time. Whilst it wasn't that commercially successful, it just has something. Even Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out, which was covered by Eric Clapton, Derek McDomino's, which is in the rock list that I'm going to record shortly after this video. Sinnerman, you will hear it. Now, if you know the song, you will hear it in the movies. I think probably the most famous movie that it appeared in was the Thomas Crown Affair. And we'll talk a few more movie soundtracks in a minute. Nina Simone's Pastel Blues. Fantastic record. We're talking soundtracks now. I've got two here. I have the soundtrack to John Hughes's Some Kind of Wonderful and the soundtrack to James Bond, Roger Moore's Moonraker. I think start with Some Kind of Wonderful. So the first thing that a lot of you will notice, I'm sure, is how pristine this is. Look at that. It is in perfect condition with OB. Let's have a look at some of these tracks. You've got Do Anything by Pete Shelley, Brilliant Mind by Furniture, I Go Crazy, Flesh for Lulu, which is, I think, the standout track on this particular soundtrack. She Loves Me, Stephen Duffy, the Jesus and Mary Chain, The Apartments, the March Violets. I mean, John Hughes, what a legacy. I mean, every one of his classic 80s movies has a soundtrack which is worth hearing. And this one's a little bit unusual, I think, in that you don't typically see this one so much. I've never seen it before. You know, Eric Stoltz, Mary Stuart Masterson, Craig Sheffer, Lear Thompson. I don't know where this sits in the John Hughes canon as well. I'm not as familiar with him as I probably should be. But it's got a really cool mix of tracks, and it is in truly fantastic condition. And I know there are plenty of you out there who love your soundtracks. I think this one probably has more of a cult following than most, and it's I guess it's one of these kind of, I don't know if it's a trope now that John Hughes made the best, teenage movies of all time, but he certainly tapped into an angst and a desperation in the 80s that still works today. It's very authentic storytelling, and he had a great ear for a tune. Some Kind of Wonderful. John Hughes. Moonraker, look at this. What a great sleeve. Absolutely incredible. 1979. Roger Moore. Look at that. Jaws, of course, in Moonraker. When he meets the love of his life, without giving too many spoilers away. Jaws being one of the great movie villains. I think that Moonraker probably wouldn't be in the upper echelon of Bond classics. It's the third time that Shirley Bassey and John Barry got together to concoct an incredible theme song. Mythology is that she recorded it in one take because they only had a few hours in the studio. You're like, oh my God, that's incredible. But I think this is very typical of the John Barry kind of thing, and it's in absolutely pristine condition. This next record is very, very, very different. I mentioned we got some heavy metal. We do. This is, I'm just going to get the obi across here. The obi's kind of in an unusual position, but I think it works for the sleeve. This is an album called The Plague by a band called Demon, who were one of the core bands in the new wave of British heavy metal. So this was released in 1983. Dave Hill, Mal Spooner, John Wright, Chris Ellis, and Les Hunt. Look, I don't get records like this very often, but I actually get quite excited when I do because they're new to me. So, Demon, as you might imagine from their name, pretty dark themes. But by the time they got to this record, which was their third, I believe, they had started to become a little bit more progressive. And you can really hear this. I listened to the first side of this earlier today. It is, you can hear the kind of new wave of British heavy metal riffage, but you do hear the kind of influence of German krautrock in particular. That's what I heard on the Atlantic label. And I think that krautrock influence is maybe because of the keyboard sound. It's a very, very unique sounding record. I've never really heard anything like it. If there are some Demon fans out there who might kind of like to give me a bit more of a nuanced view of this, then I'd like to hear it. I did like the political themes. Clearly very intelligent band, and you know, I guess it's the idea of the historical plague representing life in Britain in 1983. It kind of works, right? And so, yeah, very interesting record. Now, this next one is one that I am much more familiar with, and that is because this record is a key record featured in Vinyl Me Please's history of Impulse Records. One of the last box sets they ever made before they imploded. This box set features the likes of Mel Brown, Chicken Fat. It's got Journey in Satchinada by Alice Coltrane. It's got Africa Brass by John Coltrane. It's got Gabor Szabo. It's got a bunch of really amazing records. And it has this. And this is a fantastic record. Lorez Alexandria's Alexandria the Great. 1964. Now, on the back, so first thing you'll notice, Impulse Records. And typical Impulse Records, amazing sleeve notes, just a beautiful thing. So there are some notes from Lorez herself. This came from the original, and some band notes. I can't remember who wrote the band notes, but you know, Impulse Records, the new wave of jazz. And this little comment on the back, I think, is instructive. The church influence of the Deep South and Harlem is basic in the singing style of Lorez Alexandria. I think that is the case. Also, the band, Jimmy Cobb on drums, and probably the key, Wynton Kelly on piano. And I'm not, and never have been, and probably never will be, an expert in vocal jazz, but this thing is really distinctive, really cool. Even my wife likes it. The booklet that comes with it has got some really nice photos and some descriptions of some other Impulse acts from the time. This is not an expensive record, but it would be in my top 2 or 3 of this list. I think it's fabulous. Alexandria the Great by Lorez Alexandria. Some super, super cool vocal jazz. A true hidden gem. This, not so much. This is Baby Breeze by Chet Baker. One of, by far, the most popular artists in the history of shortcuts. We've been going for 6 years now, and this guy is right up there. Iconic trumpeter, vocalist, tragic figure. And we're not going to go into that now. This is a mixture of kind of contemporary songs, but also a good mix of original compositions. And interestingly, Chet plays flugelhorn quite a lot on this record, which gives it a kind of a melancholy, Born to be Blue, taste of honey, a really nice mix of instrument and voice. I think this is one of the better records of his. I wouldn't say I'm a massive fan. I like rather than love. Hence why these records tend to make their way onto the list. It was during the recording sessions for Baby Breeze that Chet Baker's trumpet was stolen, and that's probably why the flugelhorn makes such a contribution. But I think that makes it somewhat interesting and unique. All right, I've got a few more to go, 4 more to go. We'll try and get through these quick. Let's do this one next. I've been absolutely loving these types of records. So I've been getting these bossa nova records over the last while. This one, Sergio Mendes and Bossa Rio. One side Sergio Mendes, one side Bossa Rio. And this is just a joy. Firstly, look at that sleeve. Isn't she absolutely gorgeous? And really suits the music. Cool, sultry. It still has the original inner as well, which is well worth a look. On the Philips label. For those of you who have been enjoying this kind of bossa nova thing that I've been on, this is another one that will add to your love of the genre. I think somewhat underappreciated, these records, and I'm really glad we're bringing them back. That's Sergio Mendes and Bossa Rio. Okay, we've got the only white label promo on this list, but it's quite an interesting record. The Music Band 2 by War. This was recorded in 1979. The classic funk band. Look at that. There are 2 of these in the box. It's kind of, when you feel this, it's kind of embossed. It's kind of like a gold embossed on the sleeve. It feels amazing. There were 2 of these in the box. One went straight onto my shelf with my War collection. And this one is for you guys. So this is maybe a little bit smoother, not quite as kind of full on as the likes of Ghetto, etc., Cisco Kid, Low Rider, but still really, really fun if you're like me and you love that kind of soul funk kind of fusion points. Really infectious. As always, the rhythm section with War is to die for. Anyway, very, very, very cool record. I've got one more absolute jazz classic to go. Now, we've been talking about some great drummers through this list. Jimmy Cobb, Mike Clark from the Headhunters. This is a record that was introduced to me by someone from this group, and his name is Ivan. And I didn't know this album at all, and now I like it very, very much indeed. And I think part of why I like this record in particular is because of the drummer, Max Roach. The album itself is Saxophone Colossus by Sonny Rollins, in beautiful condition. Man, the folks from Shinjuku have been treating us to some outrageously good records this last month or so. Sonny Rollins, Tommy Flanagan, Doug Watkins, and Max Roach on drums. Max Roach is incredible in this album. There's an only word to use. I know Sonny Rollins is at the top of the record, but Max Roach slays it. It's an immense record. It makes its way onto the list, most lists of the best jazz albums of all time. Wonderful, wonderful copy. And when you do buy it, listen to Max. Finally, a bunch of us have been picking up copies of this record over the last little while since the sad passing of Roberta Flack. This is her debut album, First Take. You can see here, beautiful condition with Obi. If you've missed out on previous lists, honestly, you will not regret having a great copy of that record. And the Japanese pressing is beautiful. It is so, so good. I mean, this record won her Grammys. It won her acclaim, commercially successful. It's got The First Time I Ever Saw Your Face, produced by King Curtis. It's just an immense album and a great way to finish off this list. Wow. So, Herbie Hancock, Chet Baker, Roberta Flack, Lorez Alexandria, Demon, Some Kind of Wonderful. I hope you enjoyed this mix. If you would like to be on the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecords@gmail.com. Please like, subscribe, leave me a comment, and come along to my record fair. If you're local, support your local record fair so we can keep this thing alive. All right, bye.